Thank you for joining me for this biblical study concerning justice, concerning law, and just the beautiful nature of the law of justice as revealed by the scriptures. So, I am Shar, founder of Law for Love, the most special place in the legal system in Atlanta, licensed to practice law in the states of Florida and Georgia, and for nearly 14 years now have developed practical expertise navigating families through legal challenges. But today is more of a biblical study, whether you are a fellow believer in the Bible, in the Lordship of Jesus Christ, in the scriptures as the foundation for life, or whether you be a fellow believer and colleague in the law, I welcome you to just share these nuggets of biblical truth as it relates to the justice system. So today, how to appeal to a judge, understanding justice through submission to authority, respect for law, and tenacity for mercy. So this understanding is coming from the what we call miracles as they are documented in Matthew 25:21 through 58 and Mark 7:24 through 30. And this is the story of um, this is a story about a woman who found out that Jesus was in town. And before we dive in, I want to establish a foundation through definitions because this is about his authority that he walked in. So often, when you read the scriptures, you see people asking the question, by what authority is he operating? And so, very simply, authority is power to determine or to adjudicate. Adjudicate is a very legal word, right? To make a decision or otherwise settle issues or disputes. The word jurisdiction is also used here, which is another legal word that we'll kind of look at the definition a little more closely in a minute, or the right to control, command, or determine. So this is what authority is about. And so a judge is someone who has authority to settle disputes or to issue commands or make a determination because there's something that has gone wrong between two sides. Now, in this story, this woman who's outside of Jesus's heritage, this story doesn't even take place in his own nation. She comes to him and she says to him, Son of David. Why this is so important, why this is so powerful, why this is so legal, what this has to do with justice at all, is that by appealing to Jesus as the Son of David, she recognized that he had authority as a king. So to be a son of David was to be in the line of kings, to be one who had authority to determine or to settle disputes, to make a decision, the power to resolve the issue that she was bringing to him. And so when she came to him saying, hey, my daughter's demon possessed. And she invoked his authority as a king to use his power to give her relief. In the law, we call this a petition. When you file a petition with the court, you're coming to the court and you're saying that I am aggrieved, I am bothered, I am burdened, I have been done wrong. And so now I'm asking the court to get involved to make it right. So when the woman came to Jesus, calling him the Son of David, this is how we know that legally she was recognizing his authority as a judge. Because kings in the Hebrew tradition, in the biblical tradition, are judges. One of the best examples of this is King Solomon. King Solomon, he just set up the temple, he just had his house built, and this famous case presents itself to him between two harlots, two whores. They live in the same house, in the same whorehouse. They both had a baby. and one rolled over on her baby and killed the baby and swapped the baby, the dead baby, with the other whore's baby. And these two whores come to Solomon fighting over the baby that was still alive. And this was one of his most famous cases as king. He determined the matter by offering to split the living child in half. Take a sword, cut him down the middle, and give each woman half. And when the real mother said, no, 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 don't kill the baby, she can have the baby, that's how he determined who the biological mother was, who the real mother was. That was his demonstrating the king's role as judge. And this is, this is all throughout the biblical narrative. And a lot of times we don't get this understanding because we're often not being taught out of the complete witness of the scripture to include the establishment of the government of Israel, but the king is a judge. And this is why this woman from another nation who understood his authority, she invoked his power as a judge in her situation. And I want to mention jurisdiction here again, just quickly. This is your right or your power or your authority. So jurisdiction and authority are oftentimes used interchangeably. From a legal perspective, jurisdiction in lawyer world is often like your territory, your geographical territory. And this is important because in this narrative, Jesus wasn't even in his own land. Like he wasn't, this story takes place outside of the nation of Israel. And the woman who is invoking his power as a king is not even of his people. Like she's not even, like you're not even from the territory of my people. And you're coming to me invoking my authority as a king. So it's very interesting when you look at it from a legal perspective, because he was ignoring her. When you read this account, he wasn't even responding to her. Most people interpret Jesus as being rude to this lady in this account in the scripture, but what's actually happening, this is a courtroom drama. So she knew that he had the right to deal with her situation because her situation was involving an unclean spirit. She had already heard that this person was walking around commanding spirits to do what he wanted them to do. He was releasing people from the oppression of spirits who were tormenting human beings. So because she heard that he had this authority and she knew that he had the jurisdiction of a king, she came to him the way that she did. But he ignored her. He ignored her. Why? Number one, I'm not a king in your little land over here. I'm a king of a higher authority that you're appealing to me to concerning a spiritual matter. And number two, we're not even of the same people. So he's ignoring her. And when she realized that she had a legal problem because she was appealing to him on a legal basis, she worshiped him. What this was an act of submission. In the law, if a court that does not have territorial jurisdiction over you as a person is telling you that you need to come to its court, but it does not have jurisdiction, you do not have to obey a court that lacks jurisdiction over you. What this woman did, because she understood the law and she realized that the judge did not have to entertain her petition at all. This is something very, very common in legal practice. We understand that if you file a case in a court that the court doesn't have jurisdiction over, they're just going to refuse to give you any kind of relief because either they don't have jurisdiction over the issue that you're bringing to them or they don't have jurisdiction over you. Jesus had we call it subject matter jurisdiction. He had jurisdiction over the issue of this spirit, but he did not have the jurisdiction over her until she submitted to him and consented to his jurisdiction over her person. And in the law, we call this personal jurisdiction, the court's right to tell me what to do, the court's right to order me to do something. And you have the power to submit yourself to the jurisdiction of a court who otherwise does not have personal jurisdiction over you. That was the legal issue here, why Jesus was ignoring her and not speaking to her. So this submission is what gave her access for him to hear her petition. It opened the door to the court. And so those of you who practice law, you understand immediately that once she fixed the jurisdictional problem, then the court could be seated to review her petition. She had petitioned this court for mercy and asking Jesus to use his power to relieve her daughter of an unclean spirit. But she had a personal jurisdiction problem. They were not in Israel. She was not of the people of Israel, and she submitted to him through the act of worship. So he's reviewing her petition. And here's the next important part about how to move a judge, how to approach a judge. You have to understand the rule of law. Jesus makes this statement, and oftentimes it's interpreted and it's preached and taught in a very interesting way, but I'm bringing the legal perspective here. He said to her, my job is to be judge over the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then the next statement he makes, it sounds really, really rude, but he's explaining to her that he was exercising his authority as king over the lost sheep, his own people, and referred to her and all of those outside of that natural jurisdiction as being dogs. So it seems like he's being rude here, but he's simply stating the rule of law in terms of his assignment as judge. That when you're coming to me asking me for judgment, my job as king and my job as judge is to rule matters concerning Israel, not you. That's what he was saying. He was stating the rule of law. Now, she didn't argue with the law. She respected the law. Most of us will have an emotional response. If you ever consider going to somebody and they call you a dog and tell you that they're not going to hear your case, most people in their sense of rejection and feeling like a victim would pop off and just be in contempt of the court at that point. Like most people get thrown out the courtroom in response to being called a dog. But when you read this account, you will see that this woman respected the rule of law. Now, this is really, really important because where a lot of people go wrong, they don't understand the role of a judge. They don't understand the role of a king. You don't understand the principles of law. A good judge will not ignore the rule of law. A good judge will not do that. A good judge is bound by the law, which is why he put it out there. He's like, well, this is what I'm required to do. And my job is to uphold the law. And you're coming to me asking me for justice before I've completed the work that I came to do to the ones for whom I was sent. And so a lot of people go into the legal system, a lot of people stand before judges and want to make emotional arguments without knowing the law. We're completely ignoring the law or begging the judges just rule based on my emotions, making their appeal only on emotions, not understanding that as much as a judge may sympathize with you, they must stick to the dictates of the law. That's why knowing the law is so important. And so you can't make your emotional appeal before you first deal with the rule of law, which is what this woman did when she invoked the courtroom of Jesus as king. And he hit her with an understanding that he is first carrying out his duty as a judge to his own people. So check out what she did. She said, "You are right. That is the law." She didn't tell him to ignore the law. Most people want judges to ignore the law because the mandates of their heart is what dictates what is right. This is why the concept of my truth and your truth pisses me off, because it's no legal standard to your truth and my truth. The rule of law is the rule of law. And although she had an emotional appeal, although she was sympathetic, she first agreed with the law. She respected the law. And when she respected the law, she took that same law and presented a creative argument by saying to him, although the children's bread is not to be thrown to the dogs, even the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from the table to the floor. She carved out an argument in respect of the law. And this is what gave him the legal right to give her mercy and to grant her request to her. So I hope that this blesses you and encourages you in your faith and understanding why the law is so important, why our understanding of how justice works is really like the scripture really does provide the foundation for which the American justice system was built on. And our lack of understanding of that has really not served many of us. And so hopefully you found some encouragement, some insight, some understanding to help you know that you might have a sympathetic situation. You might need some mercy and some relief from whatever's going on. But until you deal with understanding that the king has to uphold the law, you can't just come to him like disregarding it, like he's not responding to unlawful emotional appeals. But if you are submitted to his authority over your life and you respect his law, then his desire is to grant you mercy. And that's for each and every one of us. And so that's all I have for today. Again, peace and blessings to you all. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.